Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, October 1st, 2023. Coming at you live from Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Happy to be here. Excited to have another afternoon show here at Hockey Night in New York. Yes. October is here. Very excited to get things going. I, of course, am sitting here with my co-host, Stefen and Edso here.
I'm here.
Behind the gear. There we go. Andrew Gross of Newsday and the Island Eyes podcast will be joining us. Can't wait to have him sit down with us. He will be here in just a moment. Stefen, Ed, how we doing, boys?
Good. I watched the game last night. It was they looked good.
All right.
Aside from that little empty net towards the end, I got a little worried.
Yeah, it's preseason. Doesn't matter. What do you think, Steph?
I'm just ready to eat a sandwich, man. I can't wait.
That's the real reason why we're here. It's not to do the show. It's just to have sandwiches with our pal Donnie. How we doing, Donnie? Thumbs up. He's doing good. All right, folks, before we dive into it, I want to thank all of our wonderful sponsors. We are happy to be presented by here, Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, and, of course, 217 Carlton Avenue in East Islip. Check out BlueLineDeli.com to check out the menu and order ahead. And we are very proud to let you all know that Blue Line Deli and Bagels has been nominated Best of Long Island, Bethpage, Best of Long Island for Best Deli, Best Egg Sandwich, Best Omelets, and Best Hero. So, Donnie, congratulations to
Got my
you.
vote.
Get your votes in. Go to Bethpage, Best of Long Island. Check that out. And vote for Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Also very proud to be sponsored by Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd and unplug your game at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. And want to send out a big thanks to our brand new sponsor, Razor and Kniff, attorneys at law, New York's premier trial lawyers. They are ready to fight for you. Check them out at razorandkniff.com. That is RAISERANDKENNIFF, razorandkniff.com. And, of course, a big thanks to Floored Media for helping us run the operations, getting the show underway every week in Rockville Center. So, with all of that out of the way, preseason hockey has started. Stefen, couple of games in here. They don't count, but they are important for the team to get the kinks out there so Lane Lambert and the staff can iron out the lineups. What have you seen so far in preseason?
Well, for sure, last night was their best showing. Saturday night. Obviously, Friday was supposed to be the game. Gets rained out. I think it's the first time we could ever say
rain delay. Yeah.
A
little odd, but yeah. I mean, it was flooding. I mean, New York was underwater.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it was probably a good call.
That's what Long Island's going to be like in, 20 years? Underwater?
Yeah. I think we're going to get the tail end before we're just completely underwater. So I think we were all born at the right time. But go ahead.
But in terms of the lineup, that was more of an NHL caliber lineup. I think the only non-NHL guy was Kyle McLean, who played quite well. He had that great assist to Cal Clutterbuck. But I think the biggest thing was speed. And that's not just skating. The tape-to-tape passes, transitioning, everything was clicking. Each line was clicking. And I think you saw the Islanders and what they could be. That was the potential when everything is going right. That's what this Islanders team could look like. And I think that's something that many fans could look at and say, that's a positive, besides, the last couple of minutes or so.
Yeah, and just like the win last night, you look at the loss the first night against the Rangers. They give up those quick 3 goals. And none of it counts. None of it matters, right? So you can brush off the first game loss. And just like last night, I wouldn't get too excited, too crazy yet, because they're not playing against the full Rangers lineup. The Islanders still didn't even have their full lineup in. They had their backup goalie in. Varlamov let up a few goals in the end there to make it a little interesting. But this is important, like I said, just so that the Islanders can figure out, what they have. You have a guy like Simon Holmstrom right now who's getting some reps on the first line. We'll see if that continues to be the case. And you have guys like Gauthier out there. He's trying to find a spot on the second line now with Palmieri being out. So there's a lot of interesting things going on here. But, Stefen, maybe we can start talking about a little bit more about the lineup. And with our friend here, Andrew Gross, who just sat down with us from Newsday. Andrew, how we doing, bud?
It's good to see you, my man.
Good to see you. Glad you made it down.
Absolutely. Wouldn't miss this.
Love it. So let's get you in here. So, Andrew, we just started talking about the fact that, Lane Lambert and the coaching staff are looking at the lineups here. We have some interesting pairings. Anders Lee with J.G. Pajot. We have Bo Horvat and Matt Barzal playing with Simon Holmstrom right now. What are you seeing out there? How do you think this is all going to shake out?
Well, I think Lane saw the same thing that I was talking about, Stefen was talking about early in training camp, that this is probably the right spot at the right time for Anders Lee with Pajot. And I think he's going to make Pajot better. I mean, he's still going to get to the net. He's still going to pounce on rebounds, and we know what Pajot is, right? And then you just decide who's, is it going to be Hudson Fasching there, which probably is a really good fit unless Hudson works his way up higher in the lineup. But Simon Holmstrom on Bo Horvat's left wing, that's an interesting one. I'm not sure that one sticks.
Right.
But the Kyle Palmieri thing has sort of thrown a wrench in it.
Big mystery at Islander camp right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, and we've talked about this, right? I can't see him being ready for the season opener at this point. He hasn't skated with the team at all.
Right.
He's not going to play. At best, he would get 2 preseason games, and I think even that's a stretch because after Monday night at New Jersey, they play again, I think, Thursday, right? So
yeah, they do Thursday, Friday. Then they're done for about a week, and that might be a good thing. Maybe that extra week gives him a chance to get in the opening night lineup.
One preseason game, is that enough for? He's a veteran, but
right.
I think you have to plan on starting the regular season, probably with a Holmstrom in your lineup and Hudson Fasching is going to be there. Where's Oliver Wahlstrom fit into all of this? Yeah, it's a little bit more. You knew who the pieces were going to be going into training camp, but it's how you put the puzzle together at this moment.
Absolutely. Stefen, what do you got to say?
And that's why preseason does matter.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, everyone's talking about how, this doesn't matter at all, but this is what
doesn't matter in the
for.
Standings, but
it's for Lambert to figure out what works.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely a good problem to have where you have to pick, okay, is Wahlstrom going to play opening night? These are all good things to have. I think the last couple of years, you knew who was making this team and where people were playing. And I think now you're seeing, especially with the prospects too, a lot of them made strong plays and made Lambert. It's going to be a tough decision for him for sure.
So I want to focus in a little bit on Anders Lee playing with JG Pajot. I'm a little surprised to see that so soon. I thought that, Anders being the captain, being the way he's paid, being the fact that he scored 28 goals last year, I thought that we would maybe wait a little longer to see him getting bumped down the roster a little bit. But I do like the fact that it's happening because I think it can spread the scoring out. And as long as he can adjust his game to a checking role with Pajot and whomever's on the other side like Fasching, I think it could actually benefit the team to open things up for somebody like Wahlstrom to solidify a spot in the top 6.
Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily lock, Gigi Pajot into this checking line centers role. They're going to be expected to provide offense. Particularly if Anders Lee is on that line, and especially if Oliver Wahlstrom shows up on that line as well. So I had this discussion with Anders the other day. I told him, and self-depreciating, I said, look, to reporters and our small brains, we have to compartmentalize this. We have to have a first line, a second line, a third line, a fourth line. And I said to Anders, I was like, I know you guys don't see it like that, right? And he was like, yeah, 100% not. And he goes, whoever I play with is going to be fine. If it means I have to take a few more defensive zone face-offs rather than offensive zone face-offs, whatever. He goes, quote unquote, let's just win hockey games, right? So
that's what you want to hear.
Yeah. No, he's got the right attitude about it, and I don't think his scoring is necessarily whatever his scoring potential is this season, be it 28, 25. I don't know if he gets over 30 anymore or not. And obviously how he works on the power play at the net front and how efficient the power play is probably going to determine how many goals Anders Lee gets this season, more so than which line he's playing on. So, I just think this, like I said, he's what is he, 32, 33 right now? I just think playing with Pajot, because now you've got Pierre Engvall, right? And probably, Anders, he's not going to match Bo Horvat and Matthew Barzal's speed. He's not going to match Brock Nelson and Pierre Engvall or whoever is on that. He's not matching that speed, but he's still a very effective player if put in the right spot, which is why. And Gigi Pajot is no turtle out there.
No, absolutely not.
So I just think, like I said, Anders Lee with Gigi Pajot right now is the right line at the right time for him.
I like it.
And I think, too, going off that is when Lee can make the passes and the plays along the boards to Pajot like we saw last night, I mean, that's when that line's going to be effective. And I think, too, you have to credit Gauthier for getting the puck in there. That's why I think Gauthier is a perfect player for that line as well. But also Anders in that chat with Andrew and I said it's a good base to get, set a foundation with Pajot. Lee's played with Horvat. Lee's played with Nelson. That way, let's say Pajot and Lee don't start together, they at least have some kind of chemistry if they have to play with each other at some point during the year.
Yeah, and Anders Lee, as a former center, knows how to play responsible defensively. So if he needs to make adjustments to start a little more in the defensive zone or whatever the case may be, he has that experience. So hopefully it is an easy adjustment for him, or easy enough. And again, if that's the case, it can spread the scoring out. You can give somebody like a guy like Wahlstrom opportunity. And let's key on him right now. Where does he stand with this lineup right now? He didn't play last night. Is that for any reason other than just Lane trying to get a good look at other guys?
This is the biggest question. We asked Lane, why wasn't Wahlstrom part of that NHL group? He said it had nothing to do with the injury. I think for Wahlstrom, he's really got to earn it. I think earlier in camp, maybe you saw Gauthier come in as, okay, Gauthier is going to be the 13th forward, but the way Gaudier's played, it's like Fasching. He's playing so well that can you not include him in the lineup? And I think for Wahlstrom, when he gets into that next preseason game, he's got to show something because those other guys are showing a lot. And I think, again, Wahlstrom signing his qualifying offer, it's a make or break year for him. And I think this is the year for him to prove he's a top 6 player because if he's not, there's a lot more guys here that play a bottom 6 role much more effective.
You talk about Gauthier or Wahlstrom having to prove it. We've seen, and look, we like Julien Gauthier, right? Yeah. And he's got this rare combination of size and speed. We've seen 5+ seasons of him in the NHL where getting to 6 goals is a stretch for this guy, right? So, it would be great for the Islanders if he could finally, figure out how to finish. And he scores 15, 20 goals. But the likelihood is he is going to settle into more of a bottom 6 role.
Yeah.
Although they love his speed, he's going to be tried with Nelson tomorrow. But you talk about prove it. Julien Gauthier has to prove he can provide any kind of offensive production on a consistent basis.
And he clearly has the shot. Lane talked about it. That was the one standout. And we saw in practice, I think one of the first scrimmages, he sniped Barn in. In overtime, he had the goal in the preseason game. But, yeah, the biggest thing for him is when it actually matters, can he finish? Because right now, like Andrew said, he's a big body, very fast, can get to the net. It just, if you can't finish, it doesn't matter.
I think it's safe to say that he's going to survive the final cuts and make the final roster.
Sure.
I think
100%,
the real question is whether he has an opening night spot in the lineup or if he's going to be a 13th or 14th forward.
And that ties back to where Kyle Palmieri is. And
right.
Look, Oliver Wahlstrom keeps talking about the last 9 months, blessing in disguise. It was the best 9 months of work in his life. He readjusted. He understands some things now that he didn't understand on December 27th before, his knee blew up, right?
Right.
But he still has to go out there. I asked Lane today, and I thought, he was honest in his answer. I said, do you have to evaluate Wahlstrom with where he is at this exact moment? Because Lane's job is to put the best team out there, right?
Yeah.
Do you have to, evaluate Wally on what he is right now, or can you allow yourself to project ahead a little bit when the need does strengthen up? And I know he says 100%, there's no lingering effects, but we all know coming back from that injury, he has to, he talked about it with me today as well. He's got to get some hitting in. He wants all the game action. So he's not close to where he thinks he can be or where the team thinks he can be. Does Lane have the luxury of projecting Wally to where he's going to be, or does he just have to make a decision on what he's seeing on the ice? And I think at the start of the season, he's going to make a decision on what he's seeing on the ice.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I think there is a handful of guys where we're all kind of wondering, where do they fit in the puzzle? Whether it's Gauthier, whether it's Holmstrom, whether it's Wahlstrom, right? And maybe we can just talk a little bit about Holmstrom getting those reps on the first line with Barzal and Horvat. I'm not convinced, like you, Andrew, that that's where he's ultimately going to end up. I think that's Lane just saying, hey, let's see how he looks there, because I think they're looking for the guy who can be the grinder on that line, the digger, right? The guy who can fish out pucks and make sure that Barzal and Horvat are where they're supposed to be so they can put the goals in the net. And we've seen last year Holmstrom still kind of struggling with that. I know he sailed a puck over the net last night when he was set up nice in front, so maybe that's something he still has to kind of develop. But
I got to stop you. I'm freaking tired of settling for a guy who's going to dig the puck out of the corner on the
please,
top
let's
line,
hear it.
right?
Sure.
Why can't you have 3 scorers on a line?
Please listen. I think the problem is we're trying to find out who that scorer is going to be.
No, and it's probably not there at Horvat and Barzal's level.
Right.
I'm dying to see Engvall. Yes, we've talked about. I'm dying to see Engvall with that trio.
Yeah, I like that too. And if he was healthy, I would have liked to have seen Palmieri up there too. Because I thought going into camp, it would have been Engvall or Palmieri getting a real shot with those two guys. Obviously, with Palmieri being out, you got to make some adjustments. But Stefen, where do you see all that going?
Yeah, I mean, Andrew and I spoke this morning how Palmieri makes sense there. And again, I know it's one preseason game of practice, but Fasching and Nelson, what they did yesterday, that chemistry. And I spoke to Nelson the other day, and I spoke to Fasching. Nelson loves that it's simple with Fasching. He digs again, we talk about digging the pucks out in the corners, but also, too, though.
There are a million jokes there.
Yeah, but also, too, is Fasching was finding Nelson in the slot, it seemed, every chance he had. And I think the difference is with Holmstrom is, Barzal was finding Holmstrom, but Nelson's going to hit the net. Again,
right.
Holmstrom struggled at the net. I asked Lane today, how do you get him to do that? And I guess it's just consistency, finding that. But again, if Holmstrom's not going to score there, he's kind of useless on that top line. You need someone that's going to bury those chances, because when you have a guy like Barzal out there, I mean, again, that was Holmstrom's issue last year when they got time to do that, is Holmstrom wasn't ready for the drop pass, or he missed the net. And again, it's, Holmstrom's great defensively, but if he's not going to score, he can't play a top 6 role like that. Yeah,
I really think for Holmstrom, it's either third line or bust. At this point, maybe fourth line, depending on how Lane wants to use the the identity line and whether they can stay healthy. We know that's always a question as well. But the indication does seem to be, if they are healthy, we're going to start with Cizikas between Martin and Clutterbuck, right?
Yeah. By the way, just back to Holmstrom for a second. Yeah. This is a completely different discussion today if he could just hit the net last night.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%.
Right?
Yeah. You got to take advantage of those opportunities.
He could have had 2 goals last night.
Right.
And then we're going, oh, my God.
He's figuring it out. He's figuring it out, right?
Because, was it 4 years now? This is a first-round pick. This is the Islanders' last first-round pick. When is it going to come around? He hits the net twice last night, and you're thinking Barzy and Horvat are going to be feeding him those passes all season, and he's got a really nice shot. It's the Ryan Pulak syndrome, right?
And that's on top of the strong defense. Like, again, that he becomes a well-rounded player if he could score, because defensively he brings a lot to that line.
Right.
And I think, again, I don't know how much Lambert loved Durando up there. He had some words, but I thought Durando scored. Again, not with those guys, but it was just Durando is 24. He seems like he says he's ready. Like, he's an NHLer. He wants to prove it. He scored a ton last year in Bridgeport, and I thought he's looked good in practice. Again, it's hard getting used to playing with a guy like Barzal. You really got to get it. And I think, again, that's what gives an advantage to a guy like a Palmieri or even an Engvall. They're NHL guys. They've done it at that level. And I think for Holmstrom, the best thing for him, he's waiver exempt first off, so they don't have to pass him through waivers, is he got a taste of NHL action last year. 50 games. He didn't score. Then I'm going down to Bridgeport. He knows what he's got to do to get back up and make him fight to get back up rather than award him, hey, you're good defensively. We think you got it. Let him earn it in Bridgeport. There's a lot of prospects that feel like they're ready. Dufour took huge strides. A guy like Maggio, where, he's going to have to go down there and battle.
Yeah, I think the fact that Holmstrom can still be sent down without any sort of waiver issues really puts him in position. If everybody on the roster, sans Palmieri, kind of stays healthy, I think it's going to be tough for him to get into the opening night roster. But we'll see. But speaking of getting used to a guy like Matt Barzal, how has the hopefully dynamic duo of Barzal and Horvat looked so far through preseason?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and it's not hyperbole or whatever.
Hyperbole?
Hyperbole, yeah, right. Jeez, thank God I can write, because I can't talk. But they really do work well together. And Barzal, as much as I was advocating, I love Barzal in the middle, because being on the wing seems to focus him. And he's been very aggressive, looking to shoot the puck and shoot from all angles. And
need to see it.
My God, that back check, the pickpocket back check.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been absolute, and you know what? He's been fun in the room too.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You notice little things. He's happy.
Yeah, talk a little more about that, because that's what we're not seeing in the audience here. Maybe you can expand on that a little bit more.
Well, apparently he was making fun of me in the room today.
Is that right?
I heard I was talking to Engvall. He was making some faces.
Everyone makes fun of him.
That's
in the
true.
room.
That's fair. No, but Barzal, again, he just seems relaxed. And I think, again, last year when he gets hurt, obviously he comes back. He says he's 100% healthy. Clearly he was not.
No way.
Mentally or physically. It was just a lot. And I think Horvat, too, talking to him, I said, are you getting used to it a lot more? And he goes, he still has to, figure things out because Barzal could get him the puck from wherever. But you watching the ice, they just seem to create every shift. And again, Horvat takes up space. And Barzal said to me that one thing he's going to focus on is driving the net a little more. Because if Horvat and them are coming down and he's coming down the wing, the defense has to respect Horvat for a backdoor play.
Sure.
And Barzal could cut to the net and do what he's got to do there. And I think, again, this is the dynamic duo that the Islanders have been longing for.
Yeah, it's promising. Sorry, Andrew,
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing with Horvat, who also seems comfortable, is he doesn't have me and Stefen or anyone in that room asking him on a daily basis about the adjustment to the Islanders anymore. He's here. He's part of the core. He's settled in. He's got his house. It's
right.
It's not new to him anymore. And look, we saw a glimpse of it those 6 games, right, when he first came, and I'm excited for the Islanders to have a real top line.
It
right?
would be nice.
Yeah.
It would be nice. Yeah, look, it's nice to see that they may have picked up where they left off, where those 6 games went. But again, it's preseason. Let's really see how it goes when everybody's putting a full lineup out there and see how game 1 through 10 looks with those guys. But it is nice to see that it seems like they're developing some quick chemistry here in preseason through camp. That's a good sign. But before we continue on, why don't we take a little break here, get a little settled, and then we'll be right back. So, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY here at the great Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike. We'll be right back.
I don't want to hear it. It's over. I can't believe they fell short again.
Yeah, but they played so well. They made it to the semifinals 2 years in a row.
The semifinals aren't the cup. God damn it, hate those lightning.
They'll get another shot at it next year.
I don't even want to talk about it anymore, all right? They lost, okay? Let me just sit here and enjoy the one thing that makes me a little bit happy. This fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty, turkey-filled Blue Line combo. I eat 3 every day to help keep me strong.
Hey, Donnie, can I have one of those?
Coming right up. Talk about a blast from the Blue Line.
Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Our goal is to make you a hero.
Thanks for giving some time to our sponsors. Ready to talk more Isles? The train rolls on right here on Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The train rolls on here at Hockey Night in New York. Andrew stepped out for a moment, but he will be back. There he is right there. So, folks, we're going to continue the conversation here. We're talking New York Islanders. We're talking preseason. We're talking lineup here. We're going to talk about the New York Islanders defense after we just talked about the forwards. And it looks like I'm going to talk about them by myself because Stefen has to step up for a minute. Ed, I guess you and I can talk about. Well, look, Ed, why don't we get your opinion on what we were talking about before on the forwards? Is there anybody in particular you'd like to see on the top line with Barzal and Horvat?
I think Engvall.
Okay.
I think Engvall too. I agree. I couldn't agree more. I think he's.
You like the speed.
I want to see more from him, obviously, because he came in a little late in the game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Engvall's the new guy, and I want to see what the new guy's got.
Okay, I like that. He got the long contract, so we'll see where that goes. Well, look, I'm going to step into the defense now. We'll wait till Stefen and Andrew come back. Stefen, you good to go here? It looks like he's coming back. But I wanted to talk about the interesting fact that they split up the first pair. Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulock. Obviously, they've been a staple on this team for a very long time, and this is something I actually talked about last season that I'd like to see is splitting those guys up, seeing how Noah Dobson does with Adam Pelech as a true complementary first top pairing. Obviously, Noah Dobson still has a ways to go with his defense. We've been keen on that a lot, so we're waiting to find out if he can kind of clean that up, and maybe a guy like Adam Pelech can help him do that. And then seeing a more physical defensive guy like Romanov pairing up with a guy like Pulock, where maybe Pulock can kind of, I suppose, uncork his offense, because it kind of quieted down a little bit over the last season or two, and maybe that's something he can rediscover being paired with a guy like Romanov. So, Stefen, now that you're sitting back next to me, what do you think of these? That's okay, buddy. What do you think of this top four right now?
So, first off, I'll say is Romanov found his game in the second half, right? And I think the biggest reason was Pulock. So, I think keeping those two together is critical. But also, I truly believe your best defensive defenseman should be with your best offensive defenseman. And Dobson, again, confidence, whether it was the power play or 5-on-5, Dobson's confidence took a hit last year. And I think having a guy like Pelech around him relaxes him more because, again, Pelech, when healthy, is a shutdown guy. And I think it allows Dobson to jump in more on the rush and gain that confidence because the Islanders are going to need him to be that offensive defenseman he was a couple years ago. I know he did it last year, but there was, I think, the last 10 games of the year he didn't score a goal. I think there was a stretch of 19 games without one. So they're going to need him to come through.
Andrew, what do you think of the Islanders splitting up Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulock and trying out this Romanov, Pulock, and Pelech and Dobson pairing here?
Yeah, I think it balances everything out, honestly.
Agree.
You've relied on Pelech and Pulock together for so long, right?
Right.
But last season, there were two Alexander Romanovs. And the better one was with Ryan Pulock. And why not have, two really, really good pairs?
Right.
Because Pelech and Dobson are going to push each other up the ice. If it goes well, and Noah has his confidence, because he was scoring last year.
Right.
If he can handle the puck better and not have those defensive turnovers, and if he can transition the puck up quicker, it's going to pull Adam Pelech up into the play. And I know we all talk about Adam Pelech's stick and everything he does in the defensive zone. But when he gets up ice, he's shown he can be a dangerous defenseman up ice as well.
Sure.
And anything to apply pressure on the opponent, I'm all for. And I really think I think Lane's going to go with this. And then
you do.
I do think Lane's going to go with this because I think he's going to think back and, what gives him his best chance of winning? Is it having this A-plus top pair, or is it having two A defensive pairs? Right?
And that's what I was going to ask you guys. Like, do you think this is Lane just feeling this out to see how it looks, or is this something he's looking to kind of, key on and bank in on and say, okay, these are the pairs I want? And I think if he does, it shows more trust in the growth of Noah Dobson and Pelech, Alexander Romanov, to say, hey, look, these guys are ready to, I can split these guys up. Dobson can play more of a top pairing role with Adam Pelech. I think it says a lot about Dobson, and it puts a lot of faith in him. And I guess the question is if it pans out.
I think the biggest thing, too, is if Dobson could be more comfortable 5-on-5, who knows what that does for his confidence on the power play and how one thing affects the other. Because I think last year when the power play wasn't working, it definitely affected Dobson 5-on-5. And again, Pelech is just someone he can be relied on. And I think last year, they wanted Romanov and Dobson to work. Pair of 22-year-olds. If that worked, it just didn't. It didn't work at all, and it didn't work early. And I think that might have been a mistake, maybe taking the training wheels off Dobson too early. Also, Romanov, new system. So I think this is the best lineup they have when Pelech is with Dobson, Romanov with Pulock. And I think, again, when you have a major question mark in terms of your sixth guy, whether it's Bolduc or Aho with Mayfield, you want your top four defense to be as strong as possible.
Well, that's where I want to go next. Samuel Bolduc, he got in the game last night. How has he looked so far? Do you think he's got a real shot to supplant Aho in that sixth spot?
Not at this moment, and I say that off of last night's game. Bolduc, look, the Islanders will be, I think, ultimately a better team when this guy really develops into a full-time NHL. He's got this big body. He's going to provide offense. If he figures out the defense, he's immovable from in front of the net. But right now, I just saw little thing like he lost that puck battle at the post, led to a goal.
Right, right.
I mean, in the regular, the Islanders were up 4-0, so
Sure.
It wasn't going to cost them the game, but you got to win that puck battle.
Right, and we've seen that a little bit last year when he was having a rough go, a little nonchalant play. I remember, I don't remember the score, but I remember there was a very specific play last season where he got beat to a puck, skating back into his own end, and it just looked like he was tired, maybe it was the end of his shift, but it almost looked like he was a little more relaxed than he probably should be on the play, and it ended up burning them. And that's the sort of thing he's going to have to weed out of his game if he wants a solid spot on this team.
And also, and I say this is going to work better with Bolduc when he develops, because going back to Noah Dobson, when Bolduc is a full-time NHLer, he is probably going to run the second power play unit. And maybe that alleviates a little bit of the pressure on Noah Dobson to, have to be this be-it-all power play quarterback as well. They can share the burden a little bit. But right now, I still think Samuel Bolduc is, just a little bit away from that.
Okay, Stephanie, have anything to add on that?
Yeah, we talk about how there was 2 Romanovs last year. I think you could say the same thing about Bolduc. He comes up his first game against Toronto. I think Dobson was hurt. Bolduc was bodying Austin Matthews in the corner. He's making passes in transition. He just looks so comfortable, like a poised vet. And then when his second stint, again, leading into the playoffs, it was a tough learning experience for him. And I think, again, like Andrew said, I think it's Aho's right now to lose. Again, last year, Aho was the extra defenseman to start the season. It was Salo. And Aho comes in, and Aho had a very good season for him. And also in the playoffs, I think Aho was their second best defenseman. He just looked very comfortable. I think, again, going back to, you're doing Pelech, Dobson, Romanov, Pulak, I think Aho and Mayfield just a more comfortable pairing.
No, I agree, and we'll see how it all plays out. It's good that they still have a few games here left in the preseason so we can get another look. But, Andrew, I'm glad you brought up the power play because we're starting to see some new looks there. That we know that now you're seeing it in training camp now. You're seeing it in the preseason games. Some interesting lineup changes, too. They got Fasching in front of the net on that first power play unit, which is a great boost of confidence for him. How's it look so far? Has there been any noticeable differences? We saw a couple of goals scored. Dufour had that one early in the preseason there. And, maybe you guys can just comment on how the power plays look so far.
Well, look, not to throw cold water on this. It was troubling to me that when Lane was asked about the power play after the game last night, he said the same thing he said all of last season. Our entries could be better. Holy cow! We're back to this. And look, Dufour scores that power play goal. That was before the team spent 1 minute on the ice working on the power play.
Right.
And now they're starting to work on it. And look, I'm not going to Chicken Little the sky's falling because they go 0 for 2 in a preseason game.
Right.
But it does need to be crisper. And Fasching, I don't think winds up on the power play unit. He was sort of a placeholder because Oliver Wahlstrom's not in the lineup.
Fair enough.
And Wahlstrom, too, is, you expect him to be the one-time option on the power play. However, he was behind the net, not in front. He was behind the net. And I think, Lane talked about matchups in terms of the handiness of Wahlstrom feeding Horvat, whoever is in the slot there. But Wahlstrom even said he was very comfortable in there, allows him to use his hands and make plays and see things from a different angle. I mean, I think in reality, if Wahlstrom's going to be a power play force, it's not going to be from that area, but it is a different look. And I think Janers, I was talking to Dobson the other day, he said the biggest thing was that first pass. He said confidence was lost last year for a lot of reasons, but it starts with the first pass. When you make the first pass, you execute that. It changes everything. And I think they just said last year, they just struggled to make that first play, and it allowed the PKers to be aggressive and really force pressure. And I think, again, Dobson also said the goal is to get as many shots through as possible early. And we spoke to Rob Schremp this summer about that, and he said that's the biggest thing is the guys at the point don't look at the net enough. And I think for the Islanders, again, you have big bodies in front. It doesn't have to be a beautiful goal. I think it just has to go in. I mean, last year, the last 2 goals they scored on the power play, the last game of the regular season, short, quick shot from Aho at the point. I think Lee deflected that. In the playoffs, same exact thing. Palmieri deflected it. So it doesn't have to be some crazy, beautiful, highlight reel goal. Shoot the puck on goal, get the bodies in front, and then chaos.
I'm sorry. This is where we're really going to see how good Bo Horvat and Matthew Barzal are. Absolutely. They're going to do what they do 5-on-5, but can those two create enough chaos on the top unit to make it a dangerous power play.
Yeah, no, there's a lot resting on both of those gentlemen's shoulders this year. I mean, not just 5-on-5, but also on the power play. And, you know, I guess it's good that Lane's finally getting some new looks on the power play, because I think that was something that everybody was groaning about last season, where he just kept rolling out the same guys every power play and nothing was changing on the scoreboard. And maybe he'll be a little quicker to say, okay, I'm going to try another guy here and see what happens.
If Lane Lambert was the New York Jets coach, how long would he go with Zach Wilson? Like a full season? 2 seasons?
I got no dog in this race, or horse in this race. I'm not a football guy.
Well, we kind of had those when we spoke to Lane at the golf outing. He did say that he's going to oversee more of the special teams.
Right,
I think again, McClain got a lot of the heat for how bad the power play was, but again, it wasn't like those guys on the power play haven't scored before. These guys all know how to put the puck in the net. Dobson has shown that he can be a quarterback on a power play. Again, it's going to start with confidence, and it's going to be early in the year. Get the power play going early, because if it goes a week or so and they're really struggling, that confidence is going to be shattered again.
If they end up in a rut in the early going, it might be something that snowballs into another potential disaster. So if they can get out of the gate quick, and maybe Horvat and Barzell start finding some magic there in the power play, hopefully that'll help. We'll see. But let's move on to the team structure here. It's funny, they start the preseason out against the Rangers. They give and granted, we know the lineups are different. They're getting younger guys in there, AHL guys in there, and all that, of course. But they obviously open up very slow against the Rangers in that first game, go down 3-0. We kind of see the flip of that last night, where they go up 3-0 against the Rangers with more of an NHL caliber lineup. But with all of that in mind, what are you seeing out of just the way this team is playing as far as structure goes, as far as Lane's approach, you know, his approach versus Barry Trotz? Yourself, Stefen, and me and Ethan talked a little bit about it last week, just like where is he going to go with that? What are you guys seeing out in the ice so far?
Maybe it's not on the ice, but my observation on Lane is, and I don't think he would ever admit to this, he seems 100% more comfortable in this role this season.
Okay.
Like Stefen said, he wants to jump in on the power play more on both special teams. He is, to me, he seems much more like a head coach this season than an associate coach who just got promoted.
Right.
And there is a learning curve in every role in the NHL.
For sure.
That's what I noticed with Lane. He's always been a passionate guy on the ice, but I feel like his comments during practices that we see, they're shorter and maybe not as sweet, but they're shorter and to the point, and he's directing his team. You know, he's getting them going, and he's making his point really quickly rather than talking and then throwing in a curse to emphasize everything.
All right.
So, I mean, structure-wise, look, Lane runs his system. It's probably going to be a lot of what we saw last year and where he wants, how he wants to play. He's probably going to pull back. Remember last year where it was go, go, go.
Exactly.
With the
That's what I'm waiting to see.
Yeah. I think he's not going to leave his goalies out to dry as much, even though, if there are a couple of goalies in the NHL you can leave out to dry.
Right.
Ilya will save your bacon more often than not, but you don't want to really do that. So I think it'll look a bit more structured, sort of like it did down the stretch when they actually squeaked into the playoffs.
Well, I think those notes on Lambert are something that the fans are happy to hear. Stefen, what do you have to add there?
I was going to say, Lambert's system is what it is, like Andrew said, but speed is going to dictate everything with this group. I mean, in terms of, you didn't have Engel for a full year. You didn't have Horvat for a full year. If Gauthier does make the starting lineup, I mean, every line was working last night because every line had some aspect of speed, whether it be actual physical speed or just the mental, moving the puck quick. Again, I talked about it before. Their passing was so crisp that it allowed for everything. You look at Horvat's goal. I mean, Holmstrom gives him the puck in stride. If that pass is behind Horvat and it's not a fast play,
right,
he's not going to have the time and space to get to the net and then do the wrapper. And I think everything you saw last night, even the Fasching drop pass, that's a quick play. It's not speed in terms of physical speed, just a mentally quick play. And Nelson knows what he's doing. So I think every goal you saw last night was quick thinking. And when you could do that, everything changes.
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference, and it's encouraging. Again, you gotta, temper your expectations. It's preseason, but I think there are some good things we're seeing out there from the Islanders, so hopefully they can carry that over into the remaining preseason games and then into the regular season. But I think we should take one more break. But before we do, I want to talk about our friends at Main Street Board Game Cafe in Huntington Village on Long Island's North Shore. Games for sale and for open play. Food and drink, beer and wine, fun and friends. Bring the magic of phones down, eyes up, tabletop board games to your family. Our staff will help you find the right game from old favorites to the hottest new releases. We have everything from strategic to easy party games. Get off your screens for a night your family will remember. Looking for meetups to join? Our Magic the Gathering, Dungeons & Dragons, Lorcana, and organized play communities are welcoming for all. We also do parties and corporate events located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Go to mainstboardgamecafe.com for more information. Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd. Unplug your game. And with that, I want to thank you all for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY here at Blue Line Deli and Bagels. We're going to take that quick break. We'll be right back.
Islanders fans, Sunday night is hockey night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at Hockey Night NY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York, the best night of the week for any Islanders fan.
And now, it's time for What's on Tap, a look ahead at the Islanders' upcoming schedule.
That's right, folks. It's time for What's on Tap. And as we said before, there are more preseason games to be played, starting with tomorrow night, Monday, versus the New Jersey Devils in New Jersey. Then Thursday, they go into Philadelphia to play the Flyers once again. And then they will close out the preseason Friday night at UBS Arena against the Devils. So 2 games against the Devils, 1 against Philadelphia. We've already seen some cuts to the roster already. We'll probably see some more by the time as we get through the week here. What kind of roster do you think Lane's going to throw out here for these games? Are we going to see closer to the NHL here, or you think they're going to still give some guys a chance to maybe show what they got before they ultimately potentially get sent down to the minors?
I think it's going to be like one guy here or there, maybe one forward prospect for the most part. And I was a little surprised Lane went to the almost NHL ready lineup in the 3rd preseason game. Usually I thought maybe he'd wait till the 4th one.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's getting ready for the season.
Okay.
It's the prospects you could see today at camp. The AHL prospects are in one group, and it's the NHL guys. So I think that's the way the lane goes. The way the lane goes.
All right, fair enough. Stefen, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree. I think again the biggest thing for this week is how does Wallstrom play? It's finding again where the NHL players fit, and maybe you do see a guy like a Maggio or Dufour get into one more, but at the same time, Lane wants to go into the season with the right guys in the right spot and as many games as possible without obviously risking injury here and there. I think that's what he has to do because again, the Islanders, and Barzal spoke about it last year, is he's tired of the slow starts and having to just sneak in. And I think starting off strong obviously is critical. So I think having guys in their right spots, understanding what's happening, going into game 1 rather than still figuring things out is obviously the right move to make.
For sure. And Stefen, I know I asked you and Ethan last week, if there's anybody out of the youngsters, out of the young guys who might have a chance to surprise and maybe have a chance to stick around with the roster. Let's get an update on that. Is there anybody you think that might have a shot here? Or maybe we're kind of looking at the roster that everybody's kind of sort of expecting going into the season?
Yeah, I think this is the roster. I think things have changed since we last spoke. I think Duranto's dropped in terms of where that was. He struggled in a scrimmage. I think Lambert loves Maggio, and I think that's one of those guys where, he wants him to play for him one day. But again, there's no spots really for anyone to make. I think Dufour and Maggio are your guys right now. If there was someone that was going to make it in terms of just work ethic and what you want to see, and maybe those guys are your first 1 and 2 call-ups at some point this year. But yeah, I do think Duranto took a hit, and I think Maggio has really just impressed because he reminds me of Fashing. He just goes to work.
All right, Andrew, anything to add there?
Defensively, yeah.
Yeah.
The question is it Aho or Bolduc is the sixth defenseman?
Right.
As I said, I think it's Aho, and then the question becomes,
Yeah.
do they keep Bolduc as a seventh defenseman, or do they send him to Bridgeport, get him playing time, and keep someone like a Grant Hutton or a Paul Ledoux?
Well, I believe Bolduc is in danger of getting claimed if he gets sent down, correct? I believe that's the case.
That is a good question. I can look it up.
I think he is. Don't quote me 100%, but if that's the case, that obviously
Then it's a no-brainer.
Right.
You can't lose him.
Yeah, I think he's a guy who's gonna have to stay, whether it's for the 6 or 7 role, regardless, right? I mean, I think that's what you have to do. It's obviously this team has high hopes for him.
You're correct. He is
So there you
not
go.
waiver exempt, so
Oh,
he
then-
will stay.
Yeah.
He will stay.
I think we know who our 7 defensemen are. It's just
Yeah.
a matter of who's number 6 at this point, right?
Yeah.
And
It's Aho or Bolduc.
And again, like we saw last year, let's say Bolduc did win it, and the first 4, 5, 6 games don't go their way. Lane's going to go to Aho. Like we saw it last year. So I think maybe Bolduc gets the first shot, but I agree with Andrew. I think it's Aho right now in terms of putting your best lineup. But at some point, and I think the Islanders were hoping that Bolduc would really win the job, and he hasn't done that yet.
For sure, for sure. So we're at Blue Line Deli and Bagels, crafters of wonderful heroes here. I'm looking at the menu. You got the slap shot, the playmaker, the poke check, the butterfly. So I think it's about time to do the hero of the week, guys. So why don't we run into that? That's right, folks. When you hear this song, that means it is time for the hero of the week, brought to you by the Blue Line Deli and Bagels half-price hero. This week's hero is the poke check, featuring roast beef, turkey, ham, Swiss, and American lettuce and tomato, and mayo on a hero. So, folks, we're going to talk about the heroes now. We're going to get Stefen's, and Andrew, you're free to chime in if you happen to have somebody who you looked at this week and said, this guy was playing some good hockey out there. But Stefen, let's start with you. Who is your hero of the week?
Yeah, again, he's got to prove it when it matters, but Gauthier for me is my hero of the week just because he's shown that he has that shot. And again, he's shown it over his career, but I think with what he's able to do with his speed and his body in transition, if he can find a scoring touch, whether that be with Engvall and Nelson or Leo Pajot, it just makes the Islanders a stronger team. And we've seen him score in preseason. We saw him score in the scrimmage, and he's got an absolute cannon when he hits the net and gets it in. So I think he's my hero of the week because I think he opened eyes a little bit to Islander fans. Because again, before this year, he's fast. He's a Grabner-esque guy. He has the chance. He just can't finish. And if he could finish, I mean, looks like another one of those offseason moves that goes under the radar.
Yeah, hats off to Gauthier. He's looked pretty good so far. Andrew, do you have a hero of the
I
week?
got 2 heroes.
Oh,
Hey,
wow.
why not?
Yeah, one is the tow truck driver who showed up within 25 minutes. I love that dude.
Wow, awesome.
No,
awesome.
but here's a guy, I don't know if he's a hero of the week, but I'm going to throw him out here, and he's not going to make this roster.
Okay.
But the coach's son, John McLean's son, Kyle McLean,
Okay.
he is so smart. You can tell this is a guy who has been ingrained in hockey since he was born. His dad played 18 seasons or whatever in the NHL. Kyle, unfortunately, does not have the talent, the scoring talent that his father has or had. But every time this guy is on the ice, he just makes the right decision, and he makes his line mates better. He's going to be great at Bridgeport, and he's a guy that you're going to be able to call up for, a 2 or 3 game stretch here or there, and he's not going to hurt your team. And in fact, I would guess in the spot starts he gets, he'll help your team.
And I think it's good to hear that you have a few guys that you can run down the list of the Bridgeport guys and say, okay, this guy is worthy of a call up here or there. He can help the team out if and when somebody goes down or they need a different look. So that's good to hear. I think it's positive to hear about Gauthier. It's positive to hear about McLean in that regard. And I guess we'll get to my hero here. And Stefen, you actually wrote a really good piece on Hudson Fasching, and I happened to read it from top to bottom. And you convinced me. He's my hero of the week, Hudson Fasching. Not only for that, but also, what a drop pass to Brock Nelson last night. Look, these are all great, amazing hockey players, but I was like, whoa. I didn't know Hudson had that in him because, as you mentioned before, quick decision right at the drop of a hat here, and it was a beautiful little drop pass. Brock Nelson picks up, he skates in on net, and he puts the puck in past Jonathan Quick. And look, I'm excited for Hudson Fasching getting his first full season here as a guy with a new contract. He looks like he's playing with a lot of confidence out there, and I think this is a guy who's going to be able to help this team in that middle to bottom 6 role. and when called upon, perhaps on the power play to step in front of the net if and when it happens. But I think I have high hopes for his role for Hudson Fasching, so he is my hero of the week.
And I think the biggest thing with Fasching is he earned Lambert's trust so quickly last year that, again, if you play him on the second line, third line, or fourth line, he's going to bring his A game. And again, I asked Lane about what he wants to see from Fasching. He played with Nelson. He said just his game. We saw Fasching change his game a little bit because he knew what he had to do, get Nelson the puck. And every chance he could, he got it. Crisp passing, those drop passes, things like that. And if you're going to give Nelson those opportunities, that's going to be really good for the Islanders.
And everybody's talked about just what a hard worker Zach Parise's been, right? And just like how he's always putting it out there every shift. And maybe Hudson Fasching, maybe not in the goal department, but maybe he's the guy who can, pick up that slack if Parise ultimately doesn't come back to the team, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Right, and now that Hudson's getting a little power play time, Zach he played in all situations.
Yeah.
Power play, PK, 5-on-5. Hudson could be that kind of guy.
I think so. I think he's going to have a real chance to be a utility guy on this team, getting on special teams, whether it's PK, and then obviously in that probable, third line role next to JG Pajot. So great heroes all around there, gentlemen. Ed, how are you doing? You've been great here, nice and quiet on the side over here, running the chat.
I'm talking to people.
How's it looking in the chat, buddy?
We have a few questions brewing.
That's what I'm looking for. So why don't we get into it?
Why don't we hit the button?
Hit that button, buddy. You're so good at it.
It's time for Questions Brew.
I forgot we had the new one.
So go ahead. Ask us
It's a good one.
Ask us some questions.
Just by the way, Sean does these.
So why don't we pop the screen in there too? I don't know what you're talking. That's not me. I hired a guy to do that.
No way.
So welcome to Questions Brewing. So Ed, why don't you take it away here? What do you got for us?
We're gonna start with DTMR 0729. Questions Brewing. Any way they make a push for Devin Toews in the offseason?
Devin Toews. I don't think he's leaving the Colorado Avalanche. I miss him too. I do, but his time on the island is come and gone. You're just going to have to close the book.
I heard Lou offered the Avs a couple of second-round picks to try and get him back.
Yeah, I think he's pretty comfortable alongside Cale Makar, and he'll probably take less to stay there.
Yeah, I don't think he's looking to leave.
Lou offered a third-round pick to take both of them. So.
Yeah.
That'll go over well. Ed, what else you got?
Trouty 19, he left, but we'll still get his questions in there.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Why wasn't McLean fired with the ineffective power play? You saw that one coming to mile away.
Yeah, I think so. Stefen, you want to field that first, or I can take it? What do you want to do here?
Well, I think McLean being back just so that there's an onus on the players. I mean, we know McLean probably struggled and didn't change and make those changes you thought he should make earlier, but the fact that he's back is Lou's way of saying, guys, you guys have to get it done. And again, we talked about it earlier. These guys aren't guys that don't know how to score. They've scored before, and if the Islanders are going to do anything this year in terms of getting into the playoffs before game 82, the power play just has to come through. And again, too, it takes so much pressure off. Those 2-1 games could be 4-1 games, 3-1 games, things like that. So, yeah, they need the power play to work. But again, too, McLean has to step it up as well. If things aren't working early, changes.
Anything to add there, Andrew?
I mean, Johnny Mac's Lou's guy, right?
Right.
I mean,
But is he Lambert's guy?
Doesn't matter.
He's Lou's guy.
Yeah, I guess so.
No, I mean, Lane and Johnny Mac, you see it. They communicate well. It was when Lane says, "I'm going to get more involved in."
I think that was good for him to say too.
He had to say that. Yeah, but no, Johnny Mac gets a second season because you can't keep recycling through these power play guys.
Yeah, and it reminds me of when way back in I think it was Barry Trotz's first year at the helm, and he had Scott Gomez was a carryover, and the power play was struggling then, and everybody was hashtags fire Gomez, and then he didn't come back the following season, and they still struggled, and then it was like, okay, is it the next power play coach's fault too, or is it just a personnel situation?
Well, it's definitely a personnel.
Yeah.
I mean, and then Johnny Mac doesn't get fired because if it's a personnel thing, that's on Lou. That's not on John Mac.
Right.
And Lou doesn't need to take that on, right?
Yeah, and listen, I get it. You see something such as the power play failing as miserable as it did last season, and your first thought is going to be somebody's head has to roll on this, right? I get it. But you know what? Like, it does kind of start with the players here, and maybe some more onus gets put on the coaching staff if they still can't figure out a way to do it. Because, I mean, we've said this too on the show, and Andrew, I'm sure you would agree, they do have the horses to have a successful power play. They have guys who can score. They have guys who can make plays to fool the defense, fool the goaltender, to create scoring chances here. And these guys are playing at the highest level. They know how to score on the power play. It just hasn't been working out for them. And yeah, hopefully we see some more looks, maybe some different strategies, some different lineups, whatever it is, because we know what happened last year just wasn't working. And and the thing is, if they bump themselves up to the 20th overall, 15th overall, is everybody going to come into the chat here and be like, John McClain, he figured it out? Is all the credit going to go to him for that?
Hey, the Islanders, when they first got Horvat, they were good on the power play. I mean, they weren't average. They were
I think
good.
it was 36% in those games.
They were good. And did Johnny Mac do anything differently in February that he did in November? It's the personnel and how they are executing.
All right, Ed, what do you got next?
The next from Mr. Tom Boyle.
T-Boyle.
Speaking of firings, I'm actually going to combine two questions. This one has to do with Lane. So do you see Lambert getting fired if they start off very slow? And I think we touched a bit on Durando before, but he would also like to know, does he make the team?
No to Durando. And what was it? When's Lane getting fired now, Tom?
If they start off slow.
Yeah, how long of a leash does Lambert have?
Yeah, how long does he got?
I don't think a very long one.
Okay.
Because even though I believe that Lou has a new 3-year deal with the Islanders, I don't think Lou has a long leash.
Okay.
So if Lou doesn't have a long leash, Lane has got a short leash.
I think that's fair to say. Stefen, anything to add there?
He nailed it. That's it. No, he's right. I think, again, what happened last year, again, you have to see Lane take the steps. Like every player. You got to see them. And if they don't grow, then you got to cut them loose.
Okay, fair enough. Ed, what do you got?
Next from Nzeb09.
What's up, Nzeb?
Actually, I like this question.
Okay.
If they said the Islanders' power play wouldn't score a goal all year, but they wouldn't give up shorthanded goals, would you take it?
No. You take a few shorthanded goals if you can have a decent power play. Very interesting question, but there's not the right balance there. No, I mean, you take your average, 4 to 6, 7, shorthanded goals against, right? Give or take.
You're going to score 35 to 45 power play goals during a season, and you're going to give up 6? No, I'm not making that trade.
No, I don't think so. But I like the question. Ed, what do you got?
Next one from Nzeb also asked, what's the one thing this team needs for them to happen for them to go far in the playoffs?
Execute.
Okay.
Obviously.
Wins.
Everybody.
Right.
And if they don't execute, someone's going to get executed, probably. Cut.
Damn.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, when you get to the playoffs, 5-on-5 goals, become that much harder. The power play has to be a thing.
A thing that functions.
Seriously.
Right, yeah.
And Lane can't be talking about zone entries anymore.
We're done with those.
Right. Yeah, and hopefully a guy like Pierre Engvall helps out with that. It can't just be Barzal being the one carrying the puck into the net, right?
There are two units.
They obviously miss names like Devon Taves and Nick Leddy. Those were guys who did a great job at carrying the puck into the zone and had a lot to do with a more successful power play some years back. But yeah, I mean, they need guys that have to be able to carry the puck in the zone. Hopefully, Engvall proves to be one of those guys. Whether it's on the first unit or second unit, that doesn't matter. Maybe Noah Dobson, improves in that area too. I mean, this is a guy who we're all saying he has to be more reliable on the power play. But that's another way to do it, is become a guy who can carry the puck from the defensive zone and get it into the offensive zone so they can set up. So
you just spoke on that. I mean, also transitioning. They struggled so much to get the puck out of their zone last year, and I think again it starts with that. You cannot make plays, and again, if you're tired and you're turning the puck over in your own zone, and guys like Barzal and Horvat are out there, well, when they get to the red line, they got to dump and change. It changes everything in terms of how effective the offense can be.
Yeah, and I think just further to the question, what needs to happen or change for them to get into the playoffs. I mean, I talked about all the question marks and what ifs last episode, and yeah, there's a decent amount of things that have to fall into place. Do all of them have to fall into place? No, I think it starts with health, because we've seen that this team can struggle when some of their top guys just aren't out. Maybe that questions, how much depth they have, filling in for those spots. But I think when you have a situation where you don't have another Adam Pelech on the team, or you don't have another Matt Barzal or Bo Horvat on the team,
there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I struggle with that name sometimes for some reason. But you saw what happened when Barzal went down.
Before.
And they changed their structure, and they actually played a lot better with Barzal out of the lineup. Does that mean they can do without him? No, absolutely not. But I think it starts with health, and then it really does key in on the power play there. And you need guys to grow like Dobson and guys like Romanov, and hopefully it goes from there. And hopefully they can get out of a first round wherever they end up.
I'm sorry. What would absolutely sink this team beyond everything
Tell
you
us.
just mentioned?
Let us know.
Any sort of long-term injury to either Sorokin or Varlamov, because this organization is paper thin in net.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Once you get past the NHL, Corey Schneider was good in a pinch for a game here or there, right? But he's retired now. We're watching Jakub Skarek, he's not ready for the NHL yet. Ken Appleby is not ready. Lennox is not ready. Tikkanen is not ready. If Sorokin or Varlamov go down, they lose. It's going to be a hard time. Yeah.
Well, now that you've put the fear of God into everybody listening on the show, hopefully nothing like that happens. But Ed, do you have any more questions for us?
Yes, we have this just in from New Wave Halifax. If the GM, coach, and team have to execute, then what place in the Metro Division shows success?
Well, a playoff spot for sure.
Okay, yeah, you can start there.
Again, I think the Islanders will finish in a wild card spot, but I think the biggest difference is to take 82 games or not. If the power play is 4, 5, 6% better, they should make it before the last game of the season. I think, again, too, is the Islanders don't mind sneaking. Like, they don't want to sneak it, but they don't mind being underdogs.
Right.
Sure, you want home ice, obviously, but this is a team that's very comfortable not being a top seed. They haven't been. So.
Yeah, I'm done caring where a team finishes in the Eastern Conference.
Okay.
Because doesn't matter.
We see it time and time again. What happened to the Bruins last year, right? I mean, and that's just the most recent example.
Sure.
Sure, it'd be great to get home ice advantage, but I'm not sweating that. I think you said it best. Success, get into the playoffs.
Right.
Everyone says this is a team built for the playoffs. I believe that, and
they just got to get in.
But you know what? Success is not going out in the first round again. And,
absolutely.
Yeah. So get into the playoffs, be a contender, and with Ilya Sorokin, who knows?
Anything could happen if he stays healthy, Andrew.
Well, I'm not jinxing.
Knock on the wood, that's right.
I just got to bust your chops. But look, I think if I'm talking early predictions for me, I think the ceiling for the Islanders is challenging the Rangers for that third spot. I do think the Rangers could potentially be vulnerable there. I think a lot of those question marks that I talked about have to be checked off by the Islanders in order to make that happen. I don't necessarily think they're just limited to being a wild card. I think that's the safest bet.
Yeah.
Out of where they could fall, and then if some of those questions get answered the wrong way, then I could also see this team missing the playoffs if things don't go the right way. If again Romanov doesn't be the better Romanov from last year, if Dobson can't figure out on the defensive side, if the power play doesn't happen, you know what I mean? There's definitely a lot of things that has you concerned. But I think if those things fall into place, sure, maybe they get into a 2-3 battle with a team like New Jersey.
You talk about the Rangers too, and Andrew and I were talking this morning. Goaltending, huge. Again, Quick has really struggled. And again, you look at the Islanders, right? You have Sorokin who's going to steal you games. Varlamov not only goes in there and Varlamov can also steal you games, and that's why the Islanders have the advantage. Jersey, they're not naming a starter in terms of goaltending. They have a lot of question marks. The Rangers.
Sure.
If something happens to Shesterkin, like we just talked about the Islanders,
the Rangers are more
done.
screwed than the Islanders. No,
exactly.
Seriously. Although the difference between the two, and I think Varlamov is going to steal you more points than Jonathan Quick.
100%.
Right?
I think that's safe to say.
But the Rangers do have Louis Domingue, or however you pronounce it, the ex-Penguin. Mm-hmm. He's their number one AHL goalie. Mm-hmm. He has NHL experience. The Islanders have no one like that. And I think that was a bit of an off-season failure on Lou's part, not to get that veteran guy that you can stash in the AHL.
Sure. Ed, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, we got another one from Ed Zep. They're just rolling in as we go.
Why not? Yeah.
What style did they play this year? More offensive like they tried in the beginning of last year, or more defensive strategy?
Okay, we kind of touched on that earlier, but I think what they're probably going to go more towards the defensive strategy just because of how much success they had in the latter half of the season, right after Barzal went down. But you guys are free to chime in on that.
But again, with speed, they can play that defensive structure and spring people on more odd man rushes. Again, last year you didn't have that speed. They had to create a lot and make a lot of plays to get offense going. I think with the defensive structure, whether it's Pellick springing someone or Dobson, they are so much stronger on the rush now than they were a year ago. So they don't have to be guns blazing. Everyone's got to get up on the play. They could do things from the D zone and up.
The Islanders, if things break right, they have the chance to have two what you would call dangerous lines with Brock Nelson and Engvall,
sure,
and Horvat and Barzal.
Right.
If things break right.
Right.
And we all know how that usually goes, right? But they don't have to be this, play a turtle, turtle shell defensive, win 2-1 games. They don't have to do that, but that doesn't mean they're not going to play a defensive system.
Right. I think they're still going to emphasize goaltending out and play a bit of a safer style. Yeah, I think that's the way they go, and it'll be interesting to see.
When Lou Lamoriello is GMing 30 years from now, it's still going it's still going to be built from the net on out for him.
For sure. Ed, I think we have time for one more if we have one.
I think that was the last one.
All right, so
unless
there we
anyone
go.
has anything.
So, folks in the chat, thanks a lot for hanging out with us. Appreciate all the questions, and I think with that, we can wrap this thing up. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for tuning in to Hockey Night in New York, live here from Blue Line Deli and Bagels, the flagship location at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, and tuning in at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. Want to send a big thanks to our pal here, Andrew Gross of Newsday and the Island Ice podcast. I believe you have an episode coming out soon.
Dropping tomorrow, yep.
There we go, tomorrow. Tune in for that after you listen to this show, obviously, but definitely check that out, the Island Iced podcast. Also want to send a big thanks to our sponsors, starting with none other than our great presenting sponsor here, Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Again, check out the flagship location here at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, 217 Carlton Avenue in East Islip, and of course, check out the menu at BlueLineDeli.com. Want to send a big thanks to Main Street Board Game Cafe, located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Find out how to unplug your game at MainSTBoardGameCafe.com. And once again, a big thanks to our brand new sponsor, Razor and Kniff Attorneys at Law. Call 516-742-7600 for a free consultation today. And check them out at razorandkniff.com. Once again, RAISERANDKENNIFF.com. And of course, a big thanks to Floored Media for helping us put everything together at Hockey Night in New York. So, folks, I want to remind you all, rate, review, and subscribe. We're here. It's October. Hockey is here. Regular season not too far away. We're going to be rolling out regular shows every week. Very excited about it. So, folks, remember, rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, spread the word, and, of course, follow us on social media. Stefen, where can we follow you on the Twitter?
Yes, Stefen_Rosner, STEFEN_ROSNER, and at the Hockey News and NHL.com.
Andrew, where can we find you?
I'm sitting next to you all the day.
That's true. You have been here all day.
No. A Gross Newsday, Newsday.com/Isles, I think, and Newsday TV.
There you go, Newsday TV, and you can follow the show at Hockey Night NY on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, everywhere, TikTok, all the places. So if you're not satisfied with watching one video at one place, you can watch it at another one as well. But we're everywhere, and of course, YouTube as well. The music's over. So with that, folks, thanks again for tuning in to Hockey Night New York. We'll see you next time.